Thank you. Hello, everyone. Warm, good evening. It's a nice Friday evening. Thank you once again for joining us for our Women on Wealth Money Book Club. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, in case you wish to really join us live, we're right here. You can log in on Zoom, join us. And an invitation for all our community members also to join in. So to begin with, a brief introduction. So I am Hira, and I have my community member Kanika and Garima right here. Also, quickly, for those of you who don't really know who we are, so we are Women on Wealth, and we are a women-centric community. And what we do is help women learn how to take charge of their finances and also learn how to grow their money. And this is our space, the Women on Wealth space, our Money Book Club. And here, what we do is this is one of our initiatives, which we started with this intention that we learn from books and create discussions, create this space for discussing about books, about money, create a space which is very open and accessible to everyone. That's really the intention. Our mission at Women on Wealth is to financially educate 50 lakh women by 2030. And in this space, our platform, which is the Money Book Club, we're on Telegram. And this is not only for the community members, but for anyone who is interested in learning more and making your relationship with money far more accessible, comfortable. So you must definitely come into this space and contribute and also learn along with us. In this space, we pick up books which are related to personal finance, investing, financial habits, and mindset building. So spreading financial awareness among women, choosing one book at a time is really what our intention is. So thank you so much once again for joining in. And as you're all aware, for the last couple of weeks, we have been reading the book, which is Thinking Fast and Slow. And this particular book is by Daniel Kahneman. And Daniel had won a Nobel Peace Prize for this particular book. And so far, what we have discovered in this book is it's really talking about various concepts. Yes, as a community, we felt that this is a lot psychological, that this book is talks a lot of psychology that this book is talking about. But I think that's truly is what is making this book even interesting chapter after chapter. And so now I would invite my community member, Garima, to please share. We're at chapter 5 that we read last week. So what we do is we pick up one chapter to read each week, and then we go back and complete the chapter. So last week we read chapter 5. We'll just do a quick summary of chapter 5 and then quickly dive into chapter 6, and let's really see what that chapter really takes us through. So yeah, bringing you in, Garima. Thank you so much.
Sure, thanks, and happy Friday, everyone. It's good to be back. So I think, Hira, when we last left the chapter 5, we were talking about the fact that whatever is easily retained or something which is very simple to be retained is something that we will be able to retain and all the time relate with. I think that's what System 1 is referring to, that if we don't question things which we are seeing every day because it's just in the front of our mind and we don't want to go ahead and question them. In all of his chapters, even, when we started off, that's what he's saying, that, we need to question the System 1 all the time. We need to question our subconscious brain all the time. And that's what he's emphasizing here as well. For example, he goes on to say, and I'm going to quote, anything that makes it easier for the associative machine to run smoothly will also bias beliefs. So anything that we are able to relate to, is even if, there is a push, a strain that comes from our conscious brain, though that no, question this. But because we know, we see it every day, this is the norm, this is how things get done, we just go ahead and, don't question it, we park it. I think we just go with a sense of what our mind can relate to. That is what it says, cognitive ease. What our thinking can relate to, very simply. If you can't remember the source of something, you can't remember, a particular number or something, you just go ahead with whatever your brain can very simply relate to, and our responses are accordingly linked. In the entire chapter, he does talk about and give certain examples and experiments that he has done. All in all, the whole idea is that system 2 should go ahead and question, or rather, we should question the simplest answer that we get without any strain. We need to go ahead and strain the intuitive answers that my system 1 gives out and challenge that ease. I think that's what I've understood. And I realize that that's what advertisers do. They keep repeating the same thing on televisions, on billboards, on through pamphlets. That's what they're doing. They're putting an image in our mind. So the moment we talk talk about the stock market, we say, "Nahin, this is crazy. Not a safe place." Or when we want to go buy a particular kind of a perfume, we always stick to what is there for us, even if there's a different brand or a different or a better brand available in the background.
Right.
So I believe whatever is repeated is something that is retained. And maybe that's why in childhood we were told to keep reading the textbook again and again, because the more you see it, the more you learn it without questioning the content of the book. So I think it all now fits into my, we kind of miss the mistakes also in the process, because we are just subject to repeating and just not questioning what the content we have read or what the content we are seeing. So that's what I think it talks about.
So brilliantly, so you put. So the impact of system 1, where it is getting you to be fast, is really not allowing you to question, because of
Correct.
its certain repetitive ways in in the way and it could be in any in our behavior, it could be right in the way we are developing ourselves as investors, right? There could be just the same way in which I may be investing so far, in the same way in which I may be managing my money so far. However, the call of this book is that yes, you have an awakened mind, the operation of system 2, the logical approach and operation of system 2, which can allow you to question, allow you to pause, notice, and really see, yeah, how is it now you would want to take this forward. And I also get present to, like, just I think last meet when Kaveri was talking about that, how our beliefs are also the influence of
Absolutely.
system 1. And now if I am talking about something different, something radical, then that is really the conscious influence of system 2. Yeah. So something that came up for me was and I was chatting with my friend, and um, to the extent that, okay, as strong women, she's a strong woman, why is she crying? And and for me, what I got present to, just the fact that she's a strong woman, uh, just because she is crying or she's in tears right now, does that not make her a strong woman? So what kind of a belief is that? And when I actually sat with it, I think I got present to something really radical, that because she's a strong woman, she's choosing to even not
Right.
get judged, not be judged by her tears,
Yes.
but really, acknowledge her emotion, her state of mind, and take this in her stride, that she needs to really care for her emotion. At times, the emotion could be laughter, joy, fun, sadness. Yeah. But what is very important is not to brush it away, versus really acknowledge that. And
Such a powerful thing you said, right? So women are supposed to be strong. That's the bias. That's system 1 speaking. You're right.
yeah,
She has everything in control. And uh, so true. So true. We just don't acknowledge our emotions at all.
yes. Yeah. So I could really now get present to that. Okay, this is system 2, and again, it is really how quickly am I adapting to system 2? Am I connecting to system 2? Am I being with this, with this approach of my mind? Yeah, I think that's
Absolutely.
what, yeah, it got for me. So yeah, inviting you, Kanika, please do join in. I mean, I think I again, well, I would really like many more of our community members who are interested, or to please jump in, join us. I do get it's a Friday evening, but yes, Kanika, inviting you, if you, while we read chapter 5, if there's something that you could connect with, feel free to contribute, please.
Yeah, thanks, Ira. This is the first time I am joining this meeting,
Wow.
so I didn't read the book.
Okay.
So yeah, but I really like the thoughts that you and Garima shared. So I didn't. Thanks, Garima. So I cannot relate much to what's being said in the book about the system tool and everything, but I'm trying to get I was able to get the gist of the things that you and Garima were talking, and it's a very important point that Garima highlighted, that we do not acknowledge our own emotions. So I think that's the step one, and acknowledging the emotions what we are feeling, and I think the 90% of job is done. So yeah, I mean, great to be here, and I'm looking forward to learn more from you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yes, as beautifully Garima mentioned, that joining in is system 1. So I'm sure your system 2 would have also been operating where, oh, I haven't read the book, how can I join? Or I don't have much to say, what do I do? Would it really make sense to, like, all of a sudden join the book club? I mean, even right now, when you may have just seen me and Garima, you could have still maybe heard that voice of your system 2, but thank you so much. You did. You really stood. Right.
I think one of the
Yeah, I
things that
have been
happened
thinking
recently-
for quite some time to join
I'm so
this.
glad you joined, Kanika. So glad you joined.
Yeah.
And yeah. So don't worry.
Yeah.
You can always catch up on the book.
Yeah, definitely.
Always
If
on that.
if I don't mind like joining in between, if even if I haven't covered the past chapters, I think it was worth coming here and listening to you guys.
Absolutely.
So much.
Great.
So what we will do now is we will now move into chapter 6. And as we normally do, the structure that we follow, Garima, is we take a couple of minutes right at the start to summarize the first chapter and then move into the next one. So we're intentional. Chapter 6 is a slightly smaller chapter. So hopefully, yeah, we would be able to complete this. And I'm now sharing the PDF of chapter 2, and I'm inviting, if you would like to read, please do jump in.
Sure, I can read. And if you're saying this is a small chapter, let's try and close it so
Sure.
that we can read chapter 7 back at home ourselves.
Sure.
How does that sound? Okay. So let's start, and we'll take a pause in case we do get lost in system 1, system 2.
Yeah.
Norms, surprises, and causes. The central characteristics and functions of system 1 and system 2 have been now introduced. With a more detailed treatment of system 1, freely mixing metaphors, we have in our head a remarkable, powerful computer, not fast by conventional hardware standards, but able to represent the structure of our world by various types of associative links in a vast network of various types of ideas. The spreading of activation in the associative machine is automatic, but we, system 2, have the ability to control the search of memory and also to program it so that the detection of an event in the environment can attract attention. We next go in more detail and wonders about the limitations of what system 1 can do. Assessing normality. The main function of system 1 is to maintain and update a model of your personal world, which represents what is normal in it. The model is constructed by associations that link ideas of circumstances, events, actions, and outcomes that occur with some regularity, either at the same time or within a relatively short interval. As these links are formed and strengthened, the pattern of associated ideas comes to represent the structure of events in your life, and it determines your interpretation of the present as well as your expectations of the future. A capacity for surprise is an essential aspect of our mental life, and surprise itself is the most sensitive indication of how we understand our world and what we expect from it. There are two main varieties of surprise. Some expectations are active and conscious. You know you're waiting for a particular event to happen. When the hour is near, you may be expecting the sound of the door as a child returns from school. When the door opens, you expect the sound of a familiar voice. You will be surprised if an actively expected event does not occur. But there is much larger category of events that you expect passively. You don't wait for them, but you are not surprised when they happen. These are events that are normal in a situation, though not sufficiently probable to be actively expected. A single incident may make a recurrence less surprising. Some years ago, my wife and I were of idea when nor
Vacationing. When we
when
were
vacationing in a small island resort on the Great Barrier Reef. There are only 40 guest rooms on the island. When we came to dinner, we were surprised to meet an acquaintance, a psychologist named John. We greeted each other warmly and commented on the coincidence. John left the resort the next day. About 2 weeks later, we were in a theater in London. A latecomer sat next to me in the lights after the lights went down. When the lights came back up for intermission, I saw that my neighbor was John. My wife and I commented that later we were simultaneously conscious of two facts. First, this was a more remarkable coincidence than the first meeting. Second, we were distinctly less surprised to meet John on the second occasion than we had been on the first. Evidently, the first meeting had somehow changed the idea of John in our minds. He was now the psychologist guy who shows up when we travel abroad. We, System 2, knew this was a ludicrous idea, but a System 1 had made it seem almost normal to meet John in strange place. We would have experienced much more surprise if we had met any acquaintance other than John in the next seat of London Theatre. By any measure of probability, meeting John in the theatre was much less likely than meeting any one of our hundreds of acquaintances, yet meeting John seemed more normal. Under some conditions, passive expectations quickly turn active, as we found in another coincidence. On a Sunday evening some years ago, we were driving from New York City to Princeton, as we had been doing every week for a long time. We saw an unusual sight, a car on fire by the side of the road. When we reached the same stretch of road the following Sunday, another car was burning there. Here again, we found that we were distinctly less surprised on the second occasion than we had been on the first. This was now the place where cars catch fire, because the circumstances of the recurrence were the same. The second incident was sufficient to create an active expectation. For months, perhaps years, after the event, we were reminded of burning cars whenever we reached that spot on the road, and were quite prepared to see another one. But of course, we never did. The psychologist Dale Miller and I wrote an essay in which we attempted to explain how events come to be perceived as normal or abnormal. I will use an example from our description of norm theory, although my interpretation of it has slightly changed. An observer casually watching the patrons at a neighborhood table in a fashionable restaurant notices that the first guest to taste the soup winces, as if in pain. The normality of a magnitude of events will be altered by this incident. It is now unsurprising for the guest who first tasted the soup to startle violently when touched by a waiter. It is also unsurprising for another guest to stifle a cry when tasting soup from the same tureen. These events and many other appear more normal than they would have otherwise, but not necessarily because they confirm advanced expectations. Rather, they appear normal because they recruit the original episode, retrieve it from the memory, and are interpreted in conjunction with it. Imagine yourself the observer at the restaurant. You were surprised by the first guest's unusual reaction to the soup, then surprised again by the startled response to the waiter's touch. However, the second abnormal event will retrieve the first from memory, and both make sense together. The two events fit into a pattern in which the guest is an exceptionally tense person. On the other hand, if the next thing that happens after the first guest's grimace is that another customer rejects the soup, these two surprises will be linked and the soup will surely be blamed. How many animals of each kind did Moses take into the ark? The number of people who detect what is wrong with this question is so small that it has been dubbed the Moses illusion. Let's read the question again. How many animals of each kind did Moses take into the ark? Moses took no animals into the ark. Noah did. Like the incident of the wincing soup eater, the Moses illusion is readily explained by norm theory. The idea of animals going into the ark sets up a biblical context, and Moses is not abnormal in that context. You did not positively expect him, but the mention of his name is not surprising. It also helps that Moses and Noah have the same vowel sound and number of syllables. As with the triads that produce cognitive ease, you unconsciously detect associative coherence between Moses and R, and so quickly accept the question. Replace Moses with George W. Bush in the sentence, and you will have a poor political joke, but no illusion. When something cement does not fit into the current context of activated ideas, the system detects an abnormality, as you just experienced. You had no particular idea of what was coming after something, but you knew when the word cement came that it was abnormal in that sentence. Studies of brain responses have shown that violations of normality are detected with astonishing speed and subtlety. In a recent experiment, people heard the sentence, Earth revolves around the trouble every year. The distinctive pattern was detected in brain activity, starting within 0.2 of a second of the onset of the odd word. Even more remarkable, the same brain response occurs at the same speed when a male voice says, I believe I'm pregnant because I feel sick every morning. Or when an upper class voice says, I have a large tattoo on my back. A vast amount of world knowledge must instantly be brought to bear for the incongruity to be recognized. The voice must be identified as upper class English and confronted with the generalization that large tattoos are uncommon in the upper class. We are able to communicate with each other because our knowledge of the world and our use of words are largely shared. When I mention a table without specifying further, you understand that I mean a normal table. You know with certainty that its surface is approximately level and that it has far fewer than 25 legs. We have norms for a vast number of categories, and these norms provide the background for the immediate detection of anomalies such as pregnant men and tattooed aristocrats. To appreciate the role of norms in communication, consider the sentence. The large mouse climbed over the trunk of the very small elephant. I can count on you having norms of the size of mice and elephant that are not too far from mine. The norms specifically are typical or average size for these animals, and they also contain information about the range and variability within the categories. It is very unlikely that either of us got the image in our eyes of a mouse larger than an elephant striding over an elephant smaller than the mouse. Instead, we each separately, but jointly visualized a mouse smaller than a shoe clambering over an elephant larger than a sofa. System 1, which understands language, has access to norms of category, which specify the range of plausible values as well as the most typical.
Okay. Sure, let's pause here. All right. Hi, welcome, Shweta. Glad to have
Hey,
you.
Shweta.
So we're on chapter 6, Shweta, which is, it says norms, surprises, and causes. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, hi. Yeah. I'm so sorry to actually I joined I think so 6:20.
Sure. Absolutely all right. Thank you so much for coming in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, so this was interesting. what so far the chapter talked about, talking about the kind of surprises and how our brain responds to something which is normal, which is expected, versus something which is not expected, it happens. Yeah, so that's what I could really connect with. Yeah. Please share what is it that you know you could connect with. And here Daniel is also talking about, the author is talking about various experiments that he's conducted. And to really
Psychologist by profession, right? So
Yeah.
that's why this is a very in-depth understanding. But
Right.
I like the surprise element because I have never thought about it like this, that, there's active and passive.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we know for example, I'm not surprised that my child is going out to play because I know this is going to happen.
Right.
This event is not, this is like active thing,
Yeah.
but my system just registers it.
Right. Yeah, actually, when he says, surprises are of two varieties. I mean, some expecting they're active and conscious. And yeah, where he's talking about the child coming in, opening the door, or in case you expect someone's unfamiliar voice. Yeah. And also, I think when he's talking about the incident where cars are burning. So once I'm going by, okay, and I see a car burning, oh my God, it'll be such a shocker, such a surprise, and thereafter a shock. Versus if I'm coming back from, I mean, I'm coming over on, the same, passing by the same path, and I again see the same incident happening, right? So which means the impact of the shock, the sudden surprise, would be far lesser. And then I would have actually made this that, oh, you know what? This is the way where you will see cars
Correct.
burning.
Correct.
Because it's, yeah. So, yeah, that, cars will, so which means,
And
is he
think
trying to say, sorry to interrupt, is he
No, no.
trying to say that, first there will be surprises and then they will appear as norms?
yes,
Yeah.
first it'll appear as a surprise. Maybe for some of us who would have faced recession the first time, it would have been a surprise that, oh, you know what's happening.
Yeah.
But now with the knowledge that we have through the community, of course,
Right.
and the fact that we have experienced it, we know that, okay, this is going to happen. RBI is going to work on the interest rates, or, this is going to happen to the stock market. So we are not shocked anymore
More. Mm-hmm.
because we know that, okay, you know what, this is bound to happen.
Right.
So it's now become kind of a norm.
Right. So people
Maybe.
who were impacted by COVID in the first cycle, and when the second, the COVID cycle just began. So yeah, I know one of my friends says, well, now I just don't know what needs to be done. Yeah. So the way he was dealing it for the second time, there was so much more awareness. There was so much more, I would say there was ease, because the first time there was so much fear. Yeah, it was a surprise. You never knew. There was so much in the media that was being talked about. So at that time, Jolie handling his health was with a lot more fear, versus the second time when he was addressing his health condition with a lot more awareness and consciousness that, okay, yeah, I need to be doing this. I need to be ensuring that this medication is taken by this time so that I recover sooner. So yeah, that's what I connect with. And if you also remember, the author is here talking about the example of soup in the restaurant. Yeah. And
it's a common thing, it's such a regular common thing.
Right.
The soup example,
Yeah.
I think you all have experienced it, seen it in the restaurant. It's a very common thing. Yeah.
Right. So if you would share a bit, like, what was he trying to convey?
I think what he's saying, what I've understood is that the first time when you take the sip, somebody, we went sip which is very hot, or
Yeah.
it doesn't taste good.
Right.
But then the second person, when he or she will taste, they'll react the same way. We are not surprised, we're not shocked, or we don't look at it as a strange thing.
Right.
Or if somebody is coming to give me a menu and taps on my shoulder, so we normally, that's a surprise because my body is unaware.
Right.
But maybe the second time when I have asked for something, I know, okay, the person will come from this side, and
Right.
it's just that, and that's why he says the brain actually takes fraction of a second to register all of this.
Right.
And but the other thing that we do is, because system one keeps a memory of all of these experiences, it keeps pulling it out. So I think that's where it gives you the caution that, okay, you know what, maybe if you're driving on this road, the cars normally burn on this road, so be careful, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no rationale, right? It's just a shock that got converted into a normal thing.
Correct.
But I don't know, maybe the rest of the chapter will explain.
Yeah, could be actually. Yeah, and now I'm bringing us back also, Garima, to really, the more I'm getting into this book, also I'm wanting to bring us back to, okay, why am I reading this book? Or what about these concepts, this level of understanding about my own mind really is helping me become a better investor? Or is it really helping me become a better wealth creator? And what is it that I again have to come back to remind myself about? Yeah. And I'm inviting Kanika, Shweta, if anything, really opens up, please feel free, come in, share. Yeah.
And I think, going back to the example you gave of the strong woman, I think because of so much that we do or is expected from us, it's just expected, right? It's in everybody's system one that this will get done and so person will do it. Or if nobody's going to do it, this person will pick it up and get it done. So I think we create system one in other people's mindset about our individual. That's how people get reputation also, right? That, you give the work to her, she will get it done.
Mm.
So it's just assumed. Nobody will ask that, Hira, do you have time? Do you have bandwidth? Are you on leave?
Right.
It's just expected from the strong woman
Right.
that you tell her.
Yeah.
And I think that is another reason why women have hard time saying no.
Yeah. Awesome.
I don't know.
Yeah, but such a brilliant interpretation, Garima. Yeah, you're right. So for me to, in this particular situation, it would really be me being operating of system two and pausing and really checking and asking that, hey, yes, do you have the time?
Yes.
Do you think this can be accomplished within the timeline
Correct.
that you really want it to be? Yeah. And got that.
I should be able to trigger my system too when I'm responding to you. Instead of just saying, no, Hira, don't worry, I'll get it done.
Right.
My system system two should question that, no, Hira, you know what, let me check my calendar. I think that's a good way that, pause. Even when you say yes for something, pause.
Yeah.
And then ask relevant details and then do it.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
not do it, whatever the case may be.
Right.
So at all times, we are building system one for ourselves or for somebody else.
Interesting. Yeah.
I need a degree after this book is over.
Truly, man.
What do you think, Shweta and Kanika?
Yeah, truly, man. We need
Have we lost it completely, or we are edging towards it?
Yeah, I mean, I am pretty much blown by the thing that how you guys interpreted the one line and you related it to the, applied it to the real life scenarios. Like for me, I was every time surprised, the first time, the second time, and the third time. So the system tool one did not apply on me for you guys.
Okay. Trust me, this is really that we've warmed up to the book. I'm glad today. I'm glad if you could see that, then I'm sure.
No, I mean, I cannot use the word impressed, but I am like truly impressed that how you and Garima applied those simple lines to real life scenarios, because those particular lines didn't mean anything to me, but it meant like so much more when you guys applied it on the, real life scenarios. Yeah.
Yeah, but we could be wrong. So we
Yeah,
are
we could
open for all kind of interpretations, Kanika. Let's not get biased
Mm-hmm.
and create our system one.
Right.
Let's trigger the second system and ask questions. I think that, challenge it also. If
Mm.
something doesn't feel right, I think, I don't know, Hira, you were there. We were reading this book when all of us in the club for that book, we were like, yeah, this book is not happening with all of us. And luckily, so it's okay, Kanika. For the first timer, sometimes we do challenge the thought written in the book as well. Hey, Sneha, thanks
It's
for
true.
joining in.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really what the beauty is, right? That I may be looking at it in a certain way, and today Garima or Kanika are looking at it differently. It's so interesting. And well, I must tell you that it never was the case earlier, in the sense that if I had a point of view and someone else had a different point of view, or to agree to disagree. But over a period of time, one has been able to really open one's mind to see, oh wow, there could be different perspectives. And that brings in a lot more interest and curiosity for me, at least. Yeah, great. So Kanika, can I invite you? Let's read the next portion of the chapter.
No, Hira, actually I'm multitasking. So my shift has started at 6. So I am currently handling my office as well as listening to you side by side. So I will not be able to read, but yeah, I am like carefully listening to this.
Okay, all right, sure. Thank you so much for your open communication. Hey Sneha, hi, good evening. Warm welcome. Thank you for joining in. Shweta, can I invite you to read? Would you like to?
Yeah, sorry, I won't be able to, Hira. Actually, I'm having my dinner right now.
Okay, no worries. Let
No
me please
worries.
take this on. All right. So, yeah, I have you guys who are listening in. So, let me take this on. So, we're on the second portion of the chapter 6, and it's 6:43. So, let's really read a couple of pages and then we will um, close. So, yeah, so we're talking about, okay, seeing causes and intentions. Fred's parents arrived late. The caterers were expected soon. Fred was angry. You know why Fred was angry? And it is not because the caterers were expected soon. In your network of associations, in company, anger and lack of punctuality are linked as an effect and its possible cause. But there is no such link between anger and the idea of expecting caterers. A coherent story was instantly constructed as you read. You immediately knew the cause of Fred's anger. Finding such causal connections is part of understanding a story and is an automatic operation of system 1. System 2, your conscious self, was offered the causal interpretation and accepted it. A story in Nassim Taleb's The Black Swan illustrates this automatic search for causality. He reports that bond prices initially rose on the day of Saddam Hussein's capture in his hiding place in Iraq. Investors were apparently seeking safer assets that morning, and the Bloomberg News Service flashed this headline: US Treasuries rise. Hussein capture may not curb terrorism. Half an hour later, bond prices fell back and the revised headline read, US Treasuries fall. Hussein capture boosts allure of risky assets. Obviously, Hussein's capture was a major event of the day. And because of the way the automatic search for causes shapes our thinking, that event was destined to be the explanation of whatever happened in the market on that day. The two headlines look superficially like explanations of what happened in the market. But a statement that can explain two contradictory outcomes explains nothing at all. In fact, all the headlines do is satisfy our need for coherence. A large event is supposed to have consequences, and consequences need causes to explain them. We have limited information about what happened on a day, and System 1 is adept at finding a coherent causal story that links the fragments of knowledge at its disposal. Read this sentence. After spending a day exploring beautiful sights in the crowded streets of New York, Jane discovered that her wallet was missing. When people who had read this brief story, along with many others, were given a surprise recall test, the word pickpocket was more strongly associated with the story than the word sights, even though the latter was actually in the sentence while the former was not. The rules of associative coherence tell us what happened. The event of a lost wallet could evoke many different causes. The wallet slipped out of a pocket and was left in the restaurant, etc. However, when the ideas of lost wallet, New York, and crowds are juxtaposed, they jointly evoke the explanation that a pickpocket caused the loss. In the story of the sparkling soup, the outcome, whether another customer wincing at the taste of the soup, or the first person's extreme reaction to the waiter's touch, brings about an associatively coherent interpretation of this initial surprise, completing a plausible story. The aristocratic Belgian psychologist Albert Michot published a book in 1945, translated into English in 1963, that overturned centuries of thinking about causality, going back at least to Hume's examination of the association of ideas. The commonly accepted wisdom was that we infer physical causality from repeated observations of correlations among events. What we have had myriad experiences in which we saw one object in motion touching another object, which immediately starts to move, often but not always in the same direction. This is what happens when a billiard ball hits another, and it is also what happens when you knock over a vase by brushing against it. Michot had a different idea. He argued that we see causality just as directly as we see color. To make his point, he created episodes into which a black square drawn on paper is seen in motion. It comes into contact with another square, which immediately begins to move. The observers know when there is no real physical contact, but they nevertheless have a powerful illusion of causality. If the second object starts moving instantly, they describe it as having been launched by the first. Experiments have shown that 6-month-old infants see the sequence of events as a cause-effect scenario, and they indicate surprise when the sequence is altered. We are evidently ready from birth to have impressions of causality, which do not depend on reasoning about patterns of causation. They are products of System 1. In 1944, at about the same time as Michot published his demonstrations of physical causality, the psychologists Fritz Heider and Marianne Simmel used a similar method to Michot's to demonstrate the perception of intentional causality. They made a film which lasts all of 1 minute and 40 seconds, in which you see a large triangle, a small triangle, and a circle moving around a shape that looks like a schematic view of a house with an open door. You viewers see an aggressive large triangle bullying a smaller triangle, a terrified circle. The circle and the small triangle joining forces to defeat the bully. They also observe much interaction around the door and then an explosive finale. The perception of intention and emotion is irresistible. Only people afflicted by autism do not experience it. All this is entirely in your mind, of course. Your mind is ready and even eager to identify agents, assign them personality traits and specific intentions. and view their actions as expressing individual propensities. Here again, the evidence is that we are born prepared to make intentional attributions. Infants under 1 year old identify bullies and victims and expect a pursuer to follow the most direct path in attempting to catch whatever it is chasing. The experience of freely willed action is quite separate from physical causality. Although it is your hands that pick up the salt, you do not think of the event in terms of a chain of physical causation. You experience it as caused by a decision that a disembodied you made because you wanted to add salt to your food. Many people find it natural to describe their soul as the source and the cause of their actions. The psychologist Paul Bloom, writing in The Atlantic in 2005, presented the provocative claim that our inborn readiness to separate physical and intentional causality explains the near universality of religious beliefs. He observes that we perceive the world of objects as essentially separate from the world of minds, making it possible for us to envision soulless bodies and bodiless souls. The two modes of causation that we are set to perceive make it natural for us to accept the two central beliefs of many religions. An immaterial divinity is the ultimate cause of the physical world, and immortal souls temporarily control our bodies while we live and leave them behind as we die. In Bloom's view, the two concepts of causality were shaped separately by evolutionary forces, building the origins of religion into the structure of System 1. The prominence of causal intuitions is a recurrent theme in this book because people are prone to apply causal thinking inappropriately to situations that require statistical reasoning. Statistical thinking derives conclusions about individual cases from properties of categories and ensembles. Unfortunately, System 1 does not have the capability for this mode of reasoning. System 2 can learn to think statistically, but few people receive the necessary training. Yeah, I think this last paragraph, and I will pause at this.
How much is left here? I was just checking on that.
Right, I think that was just the last paragraph.
Then we're starting with the machine for jumping conclusion, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we can read the machine for jumping conclusion at home. It doesn't look like to be a big chapter.
Right.
Any which ways, it's a holiday week for most of the people who are working in offices, being the Shara. So we can utilize the time to read it.
Right.
And I think it would be good if we can maybe next Friday, which is 7,
Correct.
we can discuss this chapter and move on to chapter number 8. How does that sound?
Awesome. Sounds good.
All I'm saying is because it's a big book.
Right.
So, it has 38 chapters. So instead of having one a week,
Right.
let's read chapter 7 on our own.
Correct.
And we can discuss chapter 7 on 7 and start off with chapter 8. So we'll cover more and faster.
Right. Right. Awesome. And I will just close by reading this last paragraph. Yeah. So the psychology of causality has the basis of my decision to describe psychology to psychological processes by metaphors of agency, with little concern for consistency. Sometimes refer to System 1 as an agent with certain traits and preferences, and sometimes as an associative machine that represents reality by a complex pattern of links. The system and the machine are fictions. My reason for using them is that they fit the way we think about causes. Hiders, triangles, and circles are not really agents. It is just very easy and natural to think of them that way. It is a matter of mental economy. I assume that you, like me, find it easier to think about the mind if we describe what happens in terms of traits and intentions, the two systems, and sometimes in terms of mechanical regularities, the associative machine. I do not intend to convince you that the systems are real any more than Heidegger intended you to believe that the large triangle is really a bully. Yeah, interesting. All right. Yeah, so let's really look at, yeah, what are we taking away? What did it spark something? Did today's reading delight you in a certain way? What did it do for you?
I would like to say something. Actually, today I was not focused because I had multiple things going on. So I was not actually able to focus and read what exactly the conversation was going on. So my end from today, I don't have anything to say actually to share something. So sorry for that. I don't wanted to miss this. Actually, I wanted to be focused on this, but somehow multiple things was going on, and that just actually clicked me that previously we had a reading that you should focus on one thing. You should not go for the multiple things, and that actually screwed my today's lecture. Even I'm getting feeling like, "Arey, yaar, shit, yaar, I missed the today's opportunity to understand more deeply."
Right.
But somehow I didn't able to. Some multiple things was going on.
Absolutely, all right. I'm so inspired by your commitment, Shweta, that you showed up. Considering there are
Yes.
so many things at your end which perhaps are seeking your attention at this point in time. But the fact that you chose that, okay, I really want to learn, or, I want to know how this book is now shaping. You were curious. So thank you so much. And as I know, as a community member, I know you are someone who just joined our community. So I truly
Yeah.
acknowledge you for this, this spirit to learn more. That's
Yeah, yeah, thank you so much. But no, but I feel like I should have given my at least 100% to this. But it feels internally, I don't feel like, yeah, I missed this one as a good quality input.
great.
That's making me very
Never
much
mind. Never
guilty.
mind. You can always catch up.
Yeah.
Not an
Yeah,
issue at all.
Yeah.
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 Thank you so
So
much.
don't worry about it at all. As long as you're
Yeah,
listening, also sometimes, system one is listening, remember. So it just
yeah,
take
yeah.
the cues and make, something for
Yeah,
you.
actually, when I just joined, that time the takeaway was going on with the previous reading which you were going. So that thing even helped me to understand at least little bit of things got clarity. So yeah, at least something had came to me.
Great, absolutely. And I definitely invite you to please share it in the Telegram group. The fact that you are here today, and what, I'm sure something really made you feel okay. It's 6 p.m., it's 6:15. Your clock may have been giving you, indications. It's 6:20. I must log in. So what really got you to log in? It will be so interesting for the others to know. Perhaps there are many of our women out there who are also struggling sometimes, but because the clock has struck 6:20, they may just hold themselves back. "Arey, chalo, late ho gaya, rehne do."
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Right, right.
you still
Yes, yes.
joined in. So
Yeah,
please do
actually
share.
some yeah, actually some very serious conversation was going on, and I just left that conversation. I would let it be. I just wanted to be part of this right now. I just left it that. So yeah, I will be posting the thing.
Yes, that'll be great. Thank you. That'll be
Yeah,
nice.
welcome.
Yes, Karima. How was it, and what is it
No,
that?
I think I will probably just, kind of not read the entire chapter, but the surprise part still, because when you asked me the question about the soup, I feel it is very normal. I don't know why we are treating it differently or uniquely.
Mhm.
That's what I realized after you and we discussed this question of yours.
Hmm.
Uh, but all in all, I think there is a cost to everything. And the reason why I want to go back and read that soup example again is because it will happen anytime I get a bad soup, right? So that surprise will always be a surprise to me. It may not be to you because you would conceive that, okay, the soup is bad. But I just want to go back and read that part again.
Wow.
I believe it's natural. If I don't like something, if somebody touches me, I am going to wince. I'm
Hmm.
not going to just not be surprised.
Hmm.
Uh, Other than that, I think, yeah, we are in a way training system one through so many things. I was surprised to know that there are so many things that we are unconsciously training
Mm.
ourselves about. So, which is where the knowledge that we see either on the news or we read, we need to make sure what we're reading or what we're talking about, or even the movies that we're watching, because everything is creating an experience.
Wow, such a
So-
beautiful point. Yeah, though I know we've struck 7, but I would still take a couple of minutes, and I'm now deeply struck when you say that this is the impact of system 1, right?
Yes.
So I'm taking in, if I'm watching any content and without the thought of or the intention of, hey, why am I watching? What am I really wanting when I'm investing this hour, 1 hour, 2 hour, 2 hours of my valued time? If I'm not questioning that, but I'm just watching, which means I am allowing system 1 to be adapted to any of the,
Anything.
any stimulus, any, anything outside in my environment, isn't it? Versus asking myself, hey, okay, 2 hours I have, or 1 hour I have, what am I investing in? How am I utilizing this time? Right? And that's when my system 2 is operating, and I really, I'm in control then.
Yes. Right now, I think we are getting information from all the sources, and I believe we should shut down some of them because so much of it eventually becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
But it just creates a memory which we reach out to when we are given any surprise.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I don't know.
Right. Interesting. Really very interesting this point was. So, hey Suma, hi. We're here at the Money Book Club meet, and have you come in, to join the Money Book Club meet? We're just about to close.
Yes, I actually, you're about to close. Okay, I'm sorry. I just
Yes.
came from work
No,
and I
no,
thought
we
I'll
do a
join.
6 o'clock. We start from 6.
Okay.
That's yes. It's for 1 hour from 6 to 7.
Okay, no problem. No problem. I'll
problem.
leave then. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. So thank you so much. I mean,
you,
I'm
everyone.
glad you joined in, and next time you could just
See you all next time, and please read and leave your thoughts on Telegram, as Hira also mentioned, and let's discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so
Friday,
much.
everyone,
Bye-bye.
Yes,
and
thank
happy
you.
Dussehra as well. Take care.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.